A blind pilot walks into a plane waving his walking stick. The passengers all look at each other in disbelief. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the captain is legally blind, but rest assured, he is one of the best pilots in the world with over 6,000 successful flights." Next, the co-pilot makes his way to the plane, and he is also blind and uses his walking stick to make it to the cabin. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the co-pilot is also blind, but rest assured, he is the second best pilot in the world with over 5,000 successful flights." At this point, the plane begins to take off from the runway. As it gains speed, the passengers grow tenser. The plane keeps accelerating more and more, and as it approaches the end of the runway, it still hasn't left the ground. The plane is approaching the end of the runway at high speed, and the passengers scream, "Oh my God, we're all going to die!" Suddenly, the plane takes off and begins its ascent. The pilot turns to the co-pilot and says, "The day they stop screaming, we're screwed." 1. Yesterday, my friends dropped by my place without warning for a cup of tea. The wife pulled me aside and said, "There's no sugar in the house. How can I serve tea?" I winked at her and said, "Make tea without sugar for all. Leave the rest to me." As soon as the tea was served, then I said to my guests, "Let's play a game of chance. 1 cup of tea has no sugar. Whoever gets it will take us all for dinner tonight." The result? All guests claimed they had never tasted such sweet tea. 2. The blonde, who is sick and tired of blonde jokes. A blonde woman decides that she is sick and tired of all the blonde jokes and how all blondes are perceived as stupid, so she decides to show her husband that blondes really are smart. While her husband is off at work, she decides that she is going to paint a couple of rooms in the house. The next day, right after her husband leaves for work, she gets down to the task at hand. Her husband arrives home at 5:30 and smells the distinctive smell of paint. He walks into the living room and finds his wife lying on the floor in a pool of sweat. He notices that she is wearing a ski jacket and a fur coat at the same time. He goes over and asks her if she is okay. She replies, yes. He asks what she is doing. She replies that she wants to prove to him that not all blonde women are dumb, and she wants to do it by painting the house. He then asks her why she has a ski jacket over her fur coat. She replies that she was reading the directions on the paint can, and they said, "For best results, put on 2 coats." 3. A blonde called the Guinness Book of World Records. "My friends and I want to declare a new world record," she exclaimed. "In what category?" came the reply. "Jigsaw puzzles." "Jigsaw puzzles," the editor said. "How many pieces did your group assemble?" "Oh, we didn't even count them all," she replied. "Well then," responded the editor, "how do you know you've broken a record?" "Well, it took us only 3 days to finish the puzzle," the blonde replied. "And the box says it normally takes 3 to 6 years. 4. Han Solo is chilling in his room when suddenly the light goes out. He tries to fix the bulb, but after an hour of laborious effort, he gives up. He heads over to Yoda's place to see if he can help. As Yoda opens the door, he spots a huge machine with flashing lights, beeping in the middle of the room. "What's this?" he asks Yoda. "A cloning machine, this is." "Your problem solved. It will," exclaims Yoda. Solo nervously steps into the machine as Yoda cranks it up to max. Smoke fills the room, and as he steps out, 5 Han Solo clones materialize out of thin air. "That's incredible," they all say at the same time, and they head back to Han's place, walking together in an eerie unison. With a combined effort, they easily fix the bulb. Afterwards, he knocks on Yoda's door and thanks him for his help. "Achieve this solo you would not," says Yoda. "Only many hands make light work." 5. A sweet old lady is making lunch for her husband one day. She had been making him the same lunch for the past 40 years. His favorite, a sandwich on Italian bread, made with turkey, American cheese, pickles, onions, mustard, and mayo. The husband walks into the kitchen, sits down, and takes a bite. His wife asks the same thing she always asks. "How's the sandwich, dear?" Every time he would give the same response. "It tastes fine." He would continue eating with a disappointed look on his face. His wife thinks maybe it's time to switch things up a bit. So the next day she makes him his normal lunch, only this time she makes it with ham and cheese and on wheat bread. She thought surely he will enjoy this. The husband enters the kitchen, sits down, and takes a bite. His wife then asks, "How's the sandwich, dear?" As always, he replies, "It tastes fine." He would continue eating with a disappointed look on his face. His wife then thinks maybe she needs to offer him more variety. So, the next day, she makes him a sandwich, only this time it's made with salami, pepperoni, and extra veggies and vinaigrette dressing. He walks in the kitchen, takes a bite, and the wife asks, "How's the sandwich, dear?" As always, he replies, "It tastes fine," and continued eating with a disappointed look on his face. The next day, as lunchtime is getting ready to roll around, his wife was making him lunch. She was furious at the lack of excitement and enjoyment coming from her husband, so she decides she's going to make him the most unique sandwich he's ever had. She prepares her Italian bread, only this time she toasts it and almost burns it. She adds random ingredients like peanut butter, peppers, and onions, strawberry jam, turkey, ham, corned beef, some olives, and some various seasonings. She thought, if this doesn't get a new reaction out of him, nothing will. The husband walks into the kitchen, takes a seat, and takes a bite of his sandwich. All of a sudden, his eyes widen, and he takes 2 more bites. Suddenly, he looks up at his wife with the biggest grin he's ever had. He chuckled a bit and said, "Finally, something original in this sub." 6. 2 men on a pilgrimage spend the night at a nunnery. They take a shower across the hall. When they want to start, they notice they forgot the soap, and one of them quickly darts back to their room to get 2 little travel soaps. Just as he wants to cross the hallway, 2 nuns walk by. Thinking on his feet, he leans against the wall and spreads his arms. The nuns mistake him for a Jesus statue and take a second to admire how lifelike it is. One of them turns to the other with a glint of mischief in her eye and says, "I always wanted to do this." And she gives a little tug at the man's Startled, the man drops one of the soaps. "Oh, it's a soap dispenser," the nuns exclaim. And of course the other one wants one as well, and gives him another tug. He drops the other soap, hoping they will go away. "Well, we should also get one for Sister Augustine," they say to each other, and tug and tug, 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 tug. "Ooh, shampoo!" 7. One day, Nelson Mandela was chilling in his house when there was a knock on the door. He opened the door to find a short Chinese man with a large truck full of car exhausts. The Chinese man jumped in front of Nelson Mandela, holding up a clipboard and said, "You sign, you sign." "Look, I don't know you and don't want any of your stuff. Goodbye." Saying this, Nelson Mandela closed the door. The next day, at about the same time, there was again a knock on the door. Nelson Mandela opened it to find the same Chinese man, this time with a truck full of car tires. "You sign, said the man as he jumped up and down. "Look, buddy, I really don't want your stuff," said Nelson Mandela angrily and shut the door. The next day, there was again a knock on the door. This time, the Chinese guy had arrived with a truck full of car chases. You sign, demanded the Chinese man, waving the clipboard. This time, Nelson Mandela got extremely angry. He caught the man by the scruff of his collar and spoke. "Look, man, I'm sick and tired of this. Why don't you leave me alone? Why, look, who or what is it that you want?" The perplexed Chinese man looked at Nelson and Mandela and his clipboard and said, You not Nissan main dealer?